All right, everybody. Mr. President, welcome. Everybody's looking forward to hearing from you. It's almost exactly a year ago that we were all gathered here and we heard the news that your forces were storming towards Damascus and that President Assad at the time fled. So it caused a bit of an earthquake in this room and in international communications and policy. So here we are 1 year later. You, Mr. President, have brought Syria out of its international isolation. You've been here, you've been there, you've been in the White House, you've been at the UN, you have been all over the place. Let's start by asking you whether you believe that Syria is fully into and integrated into the international community, and whether you have hope that your economy is on the way to being fixed.
In the name of God, I would like to thank you for this invitation. In actual fact, Syria has indeed gone through numerous dangerous and challenging stages over the past 100 years, and especially over the most recent 60 years. During this period, Syria was living in a state of profound and significant isolation, and was also living under the burden of a delicate and restrictive economic siege. The policies implemented by the previous regime unfortunately pushed most of the regional parties and the international parties to be satisfied with Syria. Therefore, the world was deprived of the Syrian reality, and Syria was also deprived of the world. Yes, in these days we were preparing to enter Damascus, and you were at this conference, right? And perhaps we changed the plan of this conference at that time, during the military advance that was taking place in Damascus. After 2 days, it was an announcement about the entry of Damascus. During the past year, Syria has certainly restored many of its regional and international relations. Today, Syria has exceeded the stage of stabilizing relations. Everything we talked about when we first arrived in Damascus, we have fulfilled. This creates great confidence for all regional and international parties. Of course, we are walking in the right path. All the steps we took were in favor of the Syrian public interest. Today, Syria has returned to its regional and international location. It has turned from an area that was a source of crises to an area in which hope has been formed, to create a kind of stability and to be a living model for regional stability in the region, especially with the problems that occur in the region. Therefore, the world has realized this opportunity very quickly and has replaced Syria. As a result of this,
As you said, you're surrounded by a load of countries which potentially may not have any interest in your stability. Let's say Israel. I've talked to several officials here and before I got here. As we know, Israel continues military operations on your country. And it has demanded, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, sort of a demilitarized zone all the way from Damascus to the border. What is your reaction? Because there are those who don't believe that Israel has an interest in a unified Syria. What do you think Israel's objectives are in your country?
Israel, during its ongoing and complex crisis management efforts within the broader Middle Eastern region, consistently exposes these critical situations to other sovereign nations and persistently attempts to evade the severe and devastating terrorist attacks originating from the Gaza Strip. So it tries to expose crises. Israel has become a country that fights the spies. Everything is justified by security fears and disturbances. And it is estimated that on October 7th, everything will happen around it. I think that Syria, since its arrival in Damascus, has sent positive messages towards peace and regional stability. Syria has spoken with all honesty that Syria will be a country of stability, and it is meaningless to be a source of conflict, including Israel. But Israel has met Syria with severe violence, and Syria has been exposed to a great invasion of the Syrian atmosphere and has been exposed to more than 1,000 raids. Today, more than 400 people have been detained. At the end of the day, the Israeli embassy in Beijing has been attacked by more than 25 people. We are actively working to convince the influential, active regional and international countries. Today, virtually every single country unequivocally supports Syria's legitimate demands to immediately resume the complete withdrawal of Israel before the critically important date of the 8th of December. And Syria has also firmly insisted on its unwavering position regarding I would like to express my respect for the 1974 agreement. This agreement has been in place for more than 50 years. It was a successful agreement. The absurdity of this agreement, despite the fact that it was obtained by an international association and the Security Council and the search for other agreements, such as an isolated region or something similar, I think that this may involve us in, we don't know what will happen. Maybe this will succeed or not. The best thing to stick to the Accord of 1974, agreed and in place, then the area of weapons being removed. Let's explain it. How will this area be removed and protected? Israel fears attacks from South Syria. Israel always says that it fears to be attacked by the area of South Syria. Israel always fears attack from South Syria. Israel always fears attack from South Syria. Israel always says that it fears to be attacked by southern Syria. Israel always says that it fears to be attacked by the South Syrian region. What will protect this region if there is no Syrian army and Syrian security forces? I think there are negotiations in Algeria, and the United States are involved in these negotiations. All countries are supporting Israel's withdrawal until 8th of December, and the treatment of logical security fears between the two countries. The logical security fears. Now, I want to take this opportune moment to delve into a comprehensive discussion regarding some of the most crucial and impactful aspects, elements, and considerations that are pertinent to our current subject matter, providing a detailed overview and insightful analysis of these significant points for a thorough understanding.
Concerns from inside your country. Look, I was at an event the other night for Syria in London, and one of the main speakers said the fall of Assad marks a new dawn for Syria. It's not just the end of our struggle. It is the beginning of a different chapter, one where we are finally allowed to hope, to imagine recovery, and to speak openly about the country we want to build. So let's speak openly, because it's not just the Israeli attacks and other neighbors that you have issues with, but you have an issue with internal unity. And there seems to be tribal minority fragmentation, and that's a kind word, and a lot of fear inside your country. So, as you know, you need the US Congress to lift the Caesar Act. That's the last of the very, very important sanctions. And after what happened in Suede and to the Alawites, etc., there was a pullback. And I want to know whether this is really important enough for you to fix and to try to really, really do what you said you wanted to do, which was unify your country, and how you think you're going to do that.
First of all, I oppose you in describing the situation because people feel fear in Syria. Today, Syria, and a few days ago, millions of people are coming down in a frantic way, expressing their joy at the fall of the regime. Are they afraid? I believe that Syria, on the contrary, is living in its best conditions now. Syria is a conscious country, and there is no country that does not suffer from the same situation. Some internal problems, or there is an authority in the world to get 100% agreement, especially because Syria, as you know, for almost 100 years, Syria was formed. And since then, it has gone through many undeveloped conditions. It was a stage before the complete independence from the French occupation, and then the stage of coups. Then the regime was ruled over 60 years ago, so Syria is in... The Syrian people have been fighting a lot since the beginning of the war. We have successfully and resiliently overcome the incredibly challenging and pervasive situation that involved not only the profound affliction, which caused immense suffering and hardship, but also the widespread defamation, which unjustly damaged the reputations and public standing of a significant number of individuals within our community, in order to achieve a safe and sustainable future for the Syrian people and to get another opportunity to get to know the Syrian people better. We have also joined many of our groups in forming a government and also in the National Conference. Many of the measures we have taken have helped to calm the situation, because many of the countries in which there are such conflicts enter into a period after the conflict in a longer time than the war itself. We tried to coordinate all these things in successive procedures, and most of them were successful. But we must be realistic as well. Does Syria truly require a complete 100% agreement from all parties? This level of universal consensus does not realistically happen, even in advanced and stable countries in which we strive to maintain stability. However, Syria has unfortunately moved from one oppressive ruling regime to yet another authoritarian regime, a significant and concerning transition. They are not at all similar to the success of the revolution. There are also those who are damaged by this transition, because they were benefiting a lot from the previous regime. However, we are trying to fix things. During the past year, we have achieved many achievements. Some problems have occurred that we do not accept at all. We work according to who is responsible for these problems. But we believe that Syria is moving in a path of the overall economic growth is gradually and steadily emerging. There is also a very wide and comprehensive service environment that has significantly improved during the entirety of the past year. Electricity was coming for about an hour and a half a day. Today we have reached 12 to 14 hours. At the end of this year, we will achieve self-sufficiency in electricity and work on the development of the service sector continuously. Syria has gone into a volatile economic environment, and through the economic investments that are happening in Syria, it will greatly help to achieve stability. That is why we asked the United States and sat with Congress members several times to convince them to lift the Caesar law, which was basically based on the previous regime's judgment, because it committed crimes against the Syrian people. So today, we don't want to be a tool to intimidate the Syrian people again. This is understandable, and we have a good path. We have reached more than 95%. The current US administration, led by President Trump, supports the path of removing sanctions from Syria. As you all noticed, and most countries in the world follow this path, the fate of the Syrian people, 25 million people, should not be affected by the weight and strategic position of Syria, which has affected the regional stability and is related to some people who are not convinced of removing sanctions from Syria. I just really, truly want to take this great, fantastic, wonderful, amazing opportunity to
go back to some of the minorities who are afraid. So in March, and you said just now atrocities, in March more than 400 Alawites, mostly civilians, were killed along the coast. The UN called it possible war crimes in July. There were hundreds of Druze and people killed as well, and many, many displaced. Can you tell those people from this seat what you will do to make them feel part of a unified Syria? And potentially not make them pay for being supporters of the previous regime. I know how these things happened. I was in Iraq when there was the US intervention. I saw what happened on the ground when one party felt victorious and another party didn't. And I just wonder whether there's a sense of triumphalism maybe amongst Sunni Muslims in Syria, and whether you think that you really can knit the country together. I know you said 100% is not possible. But in terms of law, order, rights, and what you feel about making them all part of a new Syria. Syria
is the first country that has shown us the meaning of peaceful coexistence throughout history. We are talking about a civilization that has been around for more than 8,000 years. It is the first event in history, 1400 years ago, in which people in Syria lived from different religions. Syria is the one that teaches the world how people live with each other. Today we cannot show that the revolution was a Sunni revolution. All the sects and components of the Syrian people participated in this revolution. The Christians were hurt by the previous regime. Even the Alawites paid more than the tax of the previous regime's practices of pride, despite using it for their children. I am not with the definition that says that the Alawites were all with the regime or were fighting it. Some of them were living in a state of fear and terror, even if the previous regime's rule had ended. We entered the high-ranking countries and we saw that there was a great poverty, even from the leaders of the previous regime. We now have a big problem. We have a big problem. There is no fault in it. We are all victims. We have a big problem and we must deal with it in a very serious way and with great wisdom. There have been disputes, yes. We formed a committee to discuss facts. We also received a committee to discuss international facts, and we established some courts and announced some of the votes. I think that some crimes that you pointed out in the coast or in the area of Sweden, these are not good statements, but I think that on a low level, despite the absurdity of what happened, we should not justify it, but we should consider and strongly confront this matter. Those who started this matter are people who have left the previous regime and have evolved to reach what they have reached. But I say that Syria is a state of law. The law is what governs and preserves the rights of all. I am not with the definition of Syria as a group of sects that live together. Syria is a cultured country full of lawyers, doctors, engineers, and diverse human resources. The law is the one that governs it. Syria is not a country that is particularly rich economically or notably poor, but it is exceptionally rich in its vibrant culture and profound ideas, offering a deep historical and intellectual heritage. significantly enhancing the fundamental principle of the law and strengthening accountability through the rigorous application of the law, and profoundly enhancing the vital role of institutions in diligently building a new, stable and prosperous state is indeed the most effective and essential way in which we will try to ensure the rights of all minorities. We have negotiated with all parties and tried to establish the principle of partnership for all, not the one of control. Some ministries are a part of a particular sect or race. But we have tried to avoid this principle of partnership in Iraq, as you mentioned. At first, I think it was a wrong policy. The Syrian government, but without the principle of censorship. We believe this is a new means. Maybe Syria will prove again that the Syrian government is a part of the Syrian government. We believe that the Syrian government is a part of. I also truly believe that you have a significant number of dedicated fans out there. I have personally spoken to some prominent nationals, and I will not name them here, who have expressed their genuine desire to learn a great deal from you. Therefore, I am now going to ask you another important question. You are, I guess, the first Democrat with a small d, who says you want to have participatory government, you want to have rights for everybody, you want to be a president for everybody, and you want Syria to be a nation of laws and civil society. That's hard. It's very hard. There are a lot of people who are wondering whether you do actually, because, you know, in this part of the world, some people get into power and stay forever. Do you see elections as a means to an end for your nation? Or is it about, you know, staying for a long time and consolidating all the power you can? I'm just saying because that's what happens in this part of the world a lot. Syria is not a tribe. Syria is a developed country with many ideas. There is a difference according to the regime in any country. There's a strong connection with the culture of the country and the historical stage that precedes the establishment of the regime. Syria is a country that is in the lead in elections. Maybe this title was used in a bad way in previous periods, and we are ready to run the elections at the level of the parliamentary representation, but we have taken the veil of elections in a way that is in line with this transitional period and has lost a lot of documents from people. I think the principle of choosing the people for whom to govern is a fundamental principle that humanity has recognized and has been established in our Islamic religion for 1400 years. The judge must be satisfied with the majority from the people so that they can get their legitimacy in the government. I believe in this, and I think this is a path that will lead to the Syrian situation right now. Maybe Syria needs stability in the construction. We should not link the Syrian construction with people, but rather link it with the construction of institutions that can continue to the end. This challenge is now in the transitional phase in the next 4 or 5 years. In the process of rebuilding the country and the laws again, with the cultural heritage that Syria has carried over the long period of 7,000 years, I believe that Syria will follow this path, which is a healthy and correct path. Building institutions in it is what ensures a fair sustainability of building a country, not relying on people. If a person is sick or dead, if all the interests of the country are linked to one person, then I think there are great risks that are linked to him. Even the advanced countries that still preserve the kingdoms and emirates have implemented many of the systems within them, and they have become institutionalized countries. This is not a disadvantage for them to be an imperialist country, but Syria is clearly different because it moved from this stage and went to the stage of republics. So it is not a disadvantage. The important thing is that there are any countries, whether they are an imperialist country or a republic, to be established by an institutional system that is sustainable with the existence of people or the departure of people.
Could you just give us a broad idea of when we'll have actually proper representative elections? A president or a prime minister?
You've indicated that a certain amount of time is required for this. However, to ensure proper planning and understanding, could you please provide a more detailed and accurate estimation of how long you anticipate this process will truly take? For 5 years, and then the elections will begin. During these 5 years, many laws and internal procedures will be adopted, and the constitution will be written during these 5 years. and it will be presented to the people in general. The constitution will be the main part of the government, or the main reference for the mechanism and system of government in the country. After 5 years, the elections will be held. Of course, a year has passed, 4 years have remained.
And finally, as you know, you have a past of being a terrorist. I mean, you worked for Al-Qaeda. What do you say to people in this room, in foreign capitals, about where your heart and your mind and your allegiance is now? We see that in parts of Syria, not only, the T word, but also the Islamic Caliphate word. Okay, there's no Islamic Caliphate in Syria. Women seem to be fairly liberated in quite a lot of the areas. Where do you see your history and how you deal with this country going forward in terms of the rights of women? What would you say to maybe some guests sitting in this room who have yet to fully empower, and some who absolutely deny women's rights?
I think the question is that there are many mistakes that are not similar to each other, but I will try to answer them. First of all, the ruling that I am a terrorist, there are many controlled laws in the world that are in effect. The laws on people who are terrorists need evidence. What does the word terrorist mean? What is the definition of terrorism? More than 25 years ago, these titles were issued in the world. There was a confusion in understanding the meaning of terrorism. What does terrorism mean? Terrorists, in their opinion, are those who kill innocent people, children and people, and use non-legal means to harm people. If we put this description on many countries in the world, we find that the number of victims who fell in Gaza is almost 60,000 people, most of them innocent. During the 14 years of the Syrian regime, more than 1 million people were killed in Syria. At this moment, more than 250,000 people are missing, unidentified, and their fate is unknown. We have freed all prisoners, but we did not find these people who disappeared. More than 14 million people were displaced, and they are not called terrorists. We find that the war that took place in the region, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in different places, most of the people killed were terrorists. Most of them were innocent, and the killers are the ones who describe others as terrorists. So I think that after 25 years, people will become aware of the meaning of the word terrorist and who deserves this word exactly. As for my personal situation, I have never been a civilian, not even for a single day. I have actively fought in multiple challenging fronts, experiencing various conflicts. I fought for more than 20 years. I fought with honor. On the contrary, I faced dangers. And I exposed myself to danger, as well as everyone else, so that civilians would not be exposed to danger. This is the last battle you witnessed when you were sitting here last year. The agenda went to another place. I genuinely believe that the entire battle was an act of pure mercy. Did you ever, in all your extensive experience, encounter a terrorist meticulously preparing a detailed plan to successfully complete it within a mere 11 days? It's truly an astonishing thought. To enter cities like Aleppo, Homs, Damascus, Hama, Deir, Raqqa, Ladikia, Tartus, Dara, and Sweden, all these places, without causing harm to a single individual, we deliberately entered into a significant military battle, and the very essence of military engagement is inherently about widespread destruction, profound devastation, and the tragic act of killing. Not a single person, not one soul, departed from these specific cities, these numerous villages, and these various countries. So this is a terrorist act. We broke the prison bars that used to torture people and rape women and children inside these prisons. We are not free. We broke the prison bars in Sayed Nair, which burned people's bones with acid, but the marriage is in the standards. Sometimes I think that the reality has denied all these articles. And the world finally realized that this policy was wrong and these descriptions were wrong. So that's why I gathered the Security Council to raise the terrorist description about the poor. And
You'll guarantee women's rights? That's a separate question. But women are fully empowered.
the students of this university are women, and they used to study in these universities. so that they could join the government institutions in the work or in the market. In general, women in Syria are capable and have their rights protected, and we are striving to be a participant in the government and in the parliament of the people. I think there is no fear of the Syrian women. They are a little afraid of the Syrian man.
President Ahmad Al-sharaa, thank you very much indeed.
Shukran.